So what we're going to do next is we're going to start working on getting the power cord out of the electrical housing. Again, it's just a regular screw fitting here and shouldn't be that big of an issue to take off. This looks like it might be just a grommet. This is basically, it looks like a watertight type gasket seal. This is where you got to be careful, you'll stab your finger or your hand. So just be real careful with it. That's coming out. Of course, a lot of your new stuff won't have this. It'll be a bonded type connection. But that there, it just came loose. So now what that's going to let me do is bring all these out. I'm going to straighten these out. Notice that this is a good thing to point out. Notice how they got all these different links. That helps them fit through when you pull them in and take them out. See? So now I've got my power cord disconnected. So what I'll do is I'll get another power cord and then I'll recycle this grommet here. Very tight fit, and I'll go into some of that, putting that back on. You can use some electrical dielectric grease, or some, they make the gel, it's like almost like aloe gel. You can also use just like Windex soapy water, it'll slide on. I'll probably just do the Windex trick and pull these off and recycle these three pieces on the new wire. Then I'll put new ends on. If you don't have a crimp tool, I highly suggest that you just go get one. Harbor Freight's got one that's pretty reasonably priced. I'll show you guys that when I get to it. It was actually surprisingly a very good tool. So this is our panel. It's all been disconnected now. I'm not going to disassemble it further than this. It's got some stuff on the front, some paint and stuff. I may try to get some of that off. I'll have to test that and see. I'm just going to put it right side up for you. I'm going to clean it first. We'll do that and then let you see that. And then I'm going to test getting some of this paint off with some thinner, but it may take the lettering off, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather leave the paint, just clean it, leave the paint on it, so that I can still have the lettering on there. These switches work fine. A little bit there, paint still on it right there, but I'm not going to mess with that because it's on the letters. I knocked the corner off a T right there, but I'll wipe this down again before I put it back on. A little bit of paint right there. But I'm pretty satisfied with that. That'll work, function. So this little light here just pushes through, so it's a little bit loose, but that seems to be the way it's going to be. But it works, so I'll leave it. All right, so now we'll put this aside and we'll bring the drill motor over. So I've got a little exercise I want to do with this. These labels have paint and stuff on them, but I can see that there was a protective covering on it. So I'm going to actually take my heat gun and put a little heat on there and see if I can't peel that off. And then we'll figure out something to put back on there. I'm going to take the heat gun. It's just a 1500 watt Porter cable heat gun. I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to start with this one. right, so there we have it. I've got some more glue to take off there. Couldn't read that before, but now you can clearly see that it says Slugger. Let's work on this side. This side's probably gonna be a little tougher to do, but we'll see. This is the nameplate, serial number plate and everything. I want to be able to see that. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to mess up any of the information in there. So let's take a look at this, because I'm seeing data here that I want to see. It's funny how you have perception of time. You know, this, in my mind, this was an old unit, which it really is. But in looking at this, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if I can pull in there a little closer. Because I went through the exercise of cleaning it off very carefully, I'm able to get a lot of information about the unit itself. It's 450 RPM, so I'm able to actually get that. I'm able to get the model number, which I said earlier, I was able to see that, JM101. The serial number is 1901. If you recall earlier, I mentioned that the serial number, or that the casting stamp, there was a number stamped in the base casting. That number was also 1901. So that tells me immediately that this drill body is the one that goes with this base. So that's never been changed. I have a manufacturer's date on here, March 26, 1992 date. So there. All right, so that's a lot of good information right there, just taking the time to spend a few minutes and try to get this label cleaned off where I can see it. So now that I know all that, it's not as big a deal that I have the labels on there, but I really would like to salvage them. So this was made by Jancy Engineering Company, 4525 Buckeye Street, Davenport, Iowa, 52802. It's got a 120 volt motor, 6 amp motor. That's good to know. The main thing is we got the data that we're looking for off the label, so it's awesome. All right, so let's take a look at the housing now. You guys can see, it's pretty dirty. I'm surprised that it's a 92 model. I thought it would be a little older than that. But hey, that's okay by me. Of course, I guess 1992 not being old depends on who's talking about 1992. I got a little bit of heat built up in that aluminum. So now I'm just seeing how well the housing is going to clean up. Because obviously this was just brushed aluminum, never was painted. You have to follow a couple of rules when you're painting aluminum. You have to use an etching paint on the aluminum. And you have to do it not long after you clean it. A lot of times you'll just primer it with an etching primer, and that way you can get it to stick. Otherwise, it'll just flake off. If you paint gray aluminum, the oxidization that's on it won't let the paint stick. So if you ever painted aluminum and you've had a problem with the paint coming off, that's why. You either spend a lot of time painting, cleaning it up, but you kind of have to work right behind yourself when you prep the metal. You can't do a lot of prep work on a big piece of aluminum and then come back at the end of the day and then put your primer on there. You want to, if you do wait a long time, you can put an acid wash on it that'll help reset the etch on it. But if you etch prime behind it as you go in sections, then paint should stick pretty good. That's just my experience. I'm sure there are other ways to do that, but that's looking pretty good. You're looking at the difference between that and that. So, a lot of difference. This is obviously a gear head because I can't turn this at all. You also can tell it's a gear head because the center line of the drill motor, which you can't see, basically you can see the brushes. Better if I turn it this way. Brushes here, that center line's the motor over here this way, and then offset to this side is the actual drive head. So this is the motor gear inside here, geared motor head. So I can't turn it, that's for sure. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and lay all the parts out so we can see everything for this particular build, and then I'll start actually cleaning everything up. So here's where we are so far. Here's all the pieces and parts. Just wanted to kind of lay everything out, like I said, so you guys could see everything. Down there on the far end, we've got the arbor and all the parts that went with it. And you've got in the center, you got all of the electromagnet base and the rack and the dovetails and all the parts for that. And then you got the housing, and then you've got the drill body itself. So you can see, and there'll be a little bit more to do disassembly wise as I go, just to see what else needs to be done. So I believe I said there was over 40 parts in this grouping here, and then we've got 17 pieces in the arbor. So the base, obviously, I think I counted that already. And then you've got the electrical components. Obviously, this is a unit that's not disassembled, and it's made up of quite a few parts itself. So, we're pushing 65, 70 parts here, something like that. It's a lot of parts so far. I think it's going to come out really nice once we get it all put back together. So. Okay guys, that's going to be about it for the disassembly. We've got a few more pieces that we want to tear into. I've got the pinion gear here that I want to finish taking this part down, and I want to repair the bolt that's broke off inside here. That's just a standard ease out, drill it, do an ease out on it. Hopefully I won't have to drill it out completely. Hopefully it'll be easy enough to get out without any major effort, and I want to take this off as well, figure out which way I want it to be, a right hand or left hand setup. So like I said, we ended up with about 65 or 70 pieces so far. It's a lot of parts. We're going to work to get it all cleaned up. The next set of videos, we're going to paint and do a reassembly, and then we should be able to finish up this series on the Jancy Slugger electromagnetic drill.